Welcome back to a brand new video. In today's video, we're going to be taking a complete look at the Flipsky VX2 remote and see why this remote could be a game changer for the DIY electric skateboard community. Let's get into it. Similar to the VX1, the VX2 has a very nice styrofoam cutout for all of the individual components, which include the wires for the vest, the charging cable, the receiver for the remote, and the VX2 remote itself. My initial impression was that it had the exact same finish as the VX1. The matte black finish is actually something that I quite like on these remotes. I also took notice to the range that the wheel can turn on the throttle. It's actually quite large, which felt a bit odd to me. The actual feel of the remote is unlike any other DIY remote I've used before. It doesn't feel quite as sturdy as the VX1, but it's definitely more robust than most other DIY options. The throttle is also a feeling I'm not used to, as the wheel can spin so far in either direction, leading to a really large space for your acceleration to go off of. The receiver is almost identical to the one that ships with the VX1, and in my opinion its only flaw is that it doesn't come in a case or something to protect it. The next component are the wires which connect the receiver to the UART port on the VESC. It's important that you order the proper wires for your VESC type. A V4 and a V6 VESC have different shaped UART ports, so you need the corresponding cables for them. Lastly, of course, is the charger for the remote, which is a standard micro USB charger that plugs into the bottom. Included in the box is a detailed set of instructions in both Chinese and English to make it even easier to set up the remote. The first step in setting up the remote is to connect the cables to the receiver. Also make sure that your VESC has the latest firmware. The side of the cables with the larger connectors then plugs into the UART port on the master VESC. The way to know if your receiver is getting power is to turn on the battery and wait for the blue light to turn on the receiver. At this point, you can turn on the VX2 remote controller and wait for it to power on. To pair the VX2 to the receiver, you have to push the bottom button on the remote and then flip through the menu until you get to the blinking pairing sign. It's important to then exit from the settings menu and back onto the front menu, and then you can turn the remote on and the motor should spin. If only one motor spins, make sure your firmware is updated. You have to have the latest firmware with the CAN forward feature to have both sides work off of one UART. At this point, the remote is fully usable, but there's a few more steps that you can take to maximize the features on this remote. The biggest talking point of the VX2 is the fact that it has a speedometer on the remote's screen. To set this, you simply have to go into the settings and change your wheel diameter, your pulley ratio, and the voltage of your battery by setting how many cells in series it has. This step will obviously differ for everyone, as everybody has different sized wheels and different gear ratios. In our case, we set the wheel diameter to 100 millimeters, the motor pulley to 15 teeth, and the wheel pulley to 38 teeth. The final setting to change is the throttle calibration, in which you simply push the throttle all the way up and then all the way down. Once you've set everything the way you want to, head back to the home screen. The remote is now ready to go. The biggest feature on the Flipsky VX2 is the screen included at the top of this remote. The screen on this remote displays a lot of important information that is really useful to know when riding. Starting in the top left corner, you can see which direction your board is running. FW stands for forward, and if it was reverse, it would be a different sign. Next is the board's battery indication, which is in the middle. On the top right is the remote's battery indication. On the bottom left corner is an odometer that shows how far you've gone on that ride. The bottom right corner displays how much current your board is drawing, and the largest icon in the center displays your speed. The letter to the left of your speed shows which speed mode you're in. This is by far the best and most advanced indication system I've seen on any DIY remote, and it's cool to see that Flipsky is incorporating these new features. There are 3 speed modes on the VX2, which can be changed by pushing the bottom button on the remote. You can see the mode change on the left side of the screen. My personal favorite feature on this remote is the fact that it has a reverse mode. By pushing all the way back on the throttle and then pushing the bottom button, you can change into reverse mode. To go forward again, simply do the same thing. Another cool but not so useful feature is cruise control, which can be set by pushing on the throttle however fast you'd like to go, and then pushing the power button. Once the motors are locked into a speed, simply push brake and the cruise control will stop. In terms of the performance of this remote, it actually feels really good in my hand. It feels really solid and reliable. The only thing that I don't like about the remote is that when I start braking, I'll pull down this much, but as soon as I go a little more, that's when the braking actually starts, so there's a little bit of a dead bit right here on both the acceleration and the brake. There's also some cracks right here. Those could get water in them, open up. I'm not sure what the point of them is. It's just a little bit sloppy on the finish from Flipsky, but it doesn't really affect the performance itself. Finally, I'd like to say that on this remote, I have not had a single cutout or dropout. I have had some issues with the VX1, but the VX2 has had no cutouts whatsoever, which is a really nice thing to see from this remote. Compared to other remotes, the VX2 is a lot bigger. It's both thicker by a little bit, and it's a little bit taller and wider, but that's made up for in the fact that it has this screen at the top right here. As you can see, it's quite a bit bigger than something like a Nano remote, and just slightly bigger than a VX1, but in my opinion, it's all worth it because it still has the nice feeling that both other remotes have, and it has a bunch of other way cooler features. Speaking from the perspective of a very experienced DIY e-skate builder, I have to say that the VX2 is probably my new favorite remote. I love, obviously, the Inertia Nano and the VX1, but the VX2 just has all these new features that have never been available to the DIY community, and it just feels so solid, and it's just something new, which is why I really like this remote. So in the end, I would say the Flipsky VX2 is an absolute game changer for the DIY electric skateboard community. When I asked Flipsky about the problem I had with the remote not responding on these little bits right at the beginning, they said they were working on improving it, and they were also working on improving the actual hardware itself. So the remote's only going to get better from here. So if you're looking for a remote, I would highly recommend getting the VX2. That's all I have for you guys today on the VX2 remote controller. If you guys want to buy one, you can pick one up from our brand new store called Propulsion Boards. We have a bunch in stock that are ready to ship right now to you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, leave us a like and subscribe to us. You can also use the discount code VX2Remote to get 10% off your VX2.